All right. Hey, everyone. You're here for a live broadcast. This is my YouNow live show. You're probably watching this afterwards on YouTube, on the TVC Faith Family YouTube channel. So if you're wondering what time I stream these shows, it's Monday to Friday. We do a 6 p.m. Eastern Time show, and it's been awesome. We spend time worshiping. We've been able to dialogue with non-believers. I give a presentation on a certain theme. Tonight is going to be evolution and the lies and apologetics. So if you can't join us, that's why I upload them to this YouTube channel so that you can watch them afterwards. Or if you only watch if you are unable to watch it in its entirety, you can go to the TVC Faith Family YouTube channel to check it out there. So I'm actually really excited about tonight's show. We're going to be dealing with apologetics, which is one of my favorite things, absolutely. And also we're going to be dealing with evolution, the lie that's taught in schools, macroevolution, where a lot of people just blindly believe this because they're little books that were written by men in their schools told them so, and the academic systems of the world preach this gospel, this false truth to them, that they have no purpose or meaning, they were just here as some random cause and all that nonsense. So what a great opportunity it is to destroy Satan's lies and bring people to the truth of God by doing that. So let's get into this. Now, first thing first is God doesn't need defending, but people need help understanding. Okay, that's a key component of apologetics. Why would God need defending? Well, he doesn't, but people need help to understand. And so God sends us out to defend the faith, and in so doing, help others come to a reasonable, logical understanding of the faith. So Christian apologetics is a branch of Christian theology that aims to present historical, reasoned, and evidential basis for Christianity, defending it against objections. Okay, so we're going to be doing a lot of apologetics together. Okay, this is a part where if you're not really strong with this, if you're not really capable of defending the faith and presenting the people around you with sound, historical, reasonable evidence for your belief in Christ, you can have a really hard time to reach them and bring them to Jesus. This is, in fact, one of the reasons I am highly effective. I have not almost seen, it's very rare that you can really become my friend and not have me lead you to Christ, because every single thing that you're going to bring up, I'm going to destroy by presenting reasoned, logical evidence, historical. And I'm just going to keep debunking all the lies that you have in love, because I build a relationship with the person first, and then I just start to dialogue with them. And through this dialogue, it's very easy to begin to take them to the Lord. So a lot of people Christians aren't good in apologetics. So this is one of the things, guys, that I'm going to be helping you with, okay? So, guys, when you come here, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go hard, like Kung Fu Panda style. Anytime anyone comes, we got to be able to be like, boom, they sent something, and you block that. And then they got another, like, and you block that one. And you, okay? You got to be a ninja, hardcore, warrior for God, defending the truth anytime it comes after us. And be hardcore, okay? So when you come here, soldier of God, I am going to train you. So I am your sensei Mario, and I'm here to make you a strong defender. So when someone makes a lie, you just block it, and then you got another one, knock him out, okay? I'm no joke gonna look for a karate outfit. I want to sit here in a karate outfit when I do these. Okay. All right, so 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15 says, "But in your hearts honor Christ Lord as holy, always being prepared." Always be ready. Okay? Are you ready? If there's an attack there, blah, whack, are you really ready to put up the defense? In martial arts, okay, what they're going to teach you, I used to take martial arts when I was a kid. I took everything from Kung Fu to Taekwondo to Judo to Ninjutsu. I did them all. And so what you're going to learn in a martial art is how someone strikes. So when they strike, they'll basically show you the type of strike. So if it's a right punch, if it's this, that, and you'll learn a technique to knock it out, okay? It's the very same thing in apologetics. They're always going to throw it might be an uppercut. Well, how do you deal with the uppercut? Oh, it might be a right kick to the side of the head. Well, how do you block that? It's the very same thing when you're defending God, okay? You need to be able to know, boom, that's how I block that. And then he's going to take another attack. Boom! I know how to block that. Okay? So you got to be Kung Fu warriors. But in your heart, honor Christ, the Lord, as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect. Okay? So you got to be very, very tempered when you're a martial artist. You got to be able to really control yourself. You're not just raging out and you're going to fight people because you're trying to prove a point. No, you're basically a calm, collected machine that when a strike comes, you can just block it, okay? With gentleness and with respect, okay? Throwing away your opponents in a loving manner. Taking them out, son, in Jesus' name. All right. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive. Just breaking it. Okay, notice that. It says we destroy the arguments. Like the pieces of brick, they're there, and you gotta boom! Just bust it. All of it. Break it. Okay? I have too much fun. Okay, so we destroy every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. Okay, so those are the arguments. So evolution, the New Age movement, LGBT, anything that's going to come up and stop the knowledge of God, you just whack, and that's it. It's done. Acts chapter 18, verses 4 to 11. And he reasoned in the synagogue of every Sabbath, and he tried to persuade Jews and Greeks. Okay? Here we see that the apostle was reasoning, and he also was persuading. So part of apologetics is to reason and persuade others. Okay? Acts chapter 18, verse 28. For he powerfully refuted the Jews in public, demonstrating by the scriptures that Jesus was the Christ. Okay? So here we see that we powerfully refute. Okay? So this isn't for weaklings. Okay? You got to be strong. You got to really powerfully refute. Now, some basic rules to how to engage in apologetics. Okay? Be respectful, patient, and gentle. Okay, you're not here. Know your intention. I'll skip to that. Know your intention. You're not here to be like, oh, I'm right and you're wrong. This isn't an ego game. Okay? You need to know that that person is spiritually lost and your heart should be grieving for them. Okay? And you should have a humbleness of heart dealing with them. Okay? You don't get in the dojo ring and you want to tear the guy's head off. You bow to each other. You're very respectful, And then that also, having that type of attitude, the person that you're engaging with, whether it's an atheist apologist, a Muslim apologist, or whatever, they're going to see that. And it's going to be a lot easier for the dialogue to actually be productive. Okay? So be respectful, patient, gentle. Agree to disagree respectfully, okay? There's points where they're just not going to tap out. I mean, you're going to be locking them up, and they're just not going to tap out. They're not going to get it. That's okay. You let it go. You let the chokehold go, and you just agree to you agree to disagree, okay? Do not wrestle or contend with trolls. What do I mean by that? I mean trolls as in people who just really don't want to learn. They're not actually engaging in the dialogue to grow. They're not engaging in the dialogue to really learn something. They have they already have their mind made up, and all they're doing is wasting your time. The Bible says with people like that, you just dust your feet off and you move on. Okay? There's no sense in just going over and over and getting all frustrated and angry, okay? Another key thing, be loving, okay? Ties into being respectful, patient, and gentle. And also, if you don't know the answer, don't pretend that you do, okay? Very important. A lot of people, when it comes to debates or stuff like that, they will, even though they don't know the answer, they end up pretending that they do, and don't do that, okay? Just be humble. Say, you know what? I don't know the answer to this. It doesn't mean that you can't take the time after. You can tell them, okay, can I get back to you on that? Let me just verify. I don't want to make a statement here that, is false. You don't, just so I can be right. That's not the heart motive, okay? So this is how you get into the ring when it comes to apologetics. The defense of the Christian faith for the purpose of bringing people to God. Okay, God doesn't need defending, but people need help to understand. Okay, so let me see. Now, when we are going to go out and do apologetics, it's going to be us versus the world, guys. Okay, we are very, very few when it comes to real Christians. A lot of people profess themselves to be Christian, but according to how Jesus would define a Christian, one that is born again of the Spirit, walking in obedience, a true child of God, the Bible says there are few that truly are. So it's going to feel like the world is against you, so let me just tell you about that before you go into the battle. You're going to be battling a lot of people. It could be your family, your friends, it could be all these different types of people that are close to you. So it's going to be you against the world, okay? But like David, you can face Goliath and be victorious in that. Now, there's different things that we could go into apologetics about, but today we're going to be looking at the lie, deception of evolution, and we'll do a show more in depth. Like I said, this is going to be a continuous show, but at the end here, if you guys have anything to add to it, we'll definitely go over all of that, but this is the one that we're going to be tackling a little bit today in detail. Okay, now first of all, why am I doing this as well? So you guys can learn. What I'm sharing with you, you're actually going to see that I'm going to bring up these slides a lot. Now I have a folder so that anytime an unbeliever is going to come into the room, I'm going to be like, whack! And I'm going to pull up my folder, and I'm just going to like, whack! Hit them with it, okay? And you guys should be, from these sessions with me, learning so that you as well can defend the faith, okay? The word evolution... Responding to Cosmic Skeptic. Actually, I'm doing that right now. I'm doing it on my my Studio Vegas. So easy. I'm going to destroy that kid. It's easy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Of course. The word evolution has many meanings. The only one which is scientific. So you have to define the term. When someone is going to come to you, they're going to blindly say something that's just untrue. They say, evolution is fact. It's just science, man. Don't you know that? Don't you know that my textbooks told me that? I passed my test with a 95 by regurgitating the information that was in the textbooks that they placed there that I didn't verify was actually true, that I blindly believed was true. Okay, so in regard to those ignorant people who blindly believe the school systems and blindly believe their teachers and textbooks, and their academic gods, as you would call them in today's society, you need to tell them and be like, what do you even mean by evolution? Because evolution actually has several different meanings. So as you can see here, there is the cosmic evolution, the origin of time, space, and matter. That's where the Big Bang falls in. You have chemical evolution, the origin of higher elements from hydrogen. Stellar and planar evolution, origin of stars and planets. Organic evolution, origin of life. Macroevolution, changing from one kind of animal into another. And then microevolution, which is variations within kinds. Only this one has been observed. So all of these other ones do not fall within the realm of actual science, okay? They don't. This one does. Now, what is that? Well, okay, so macroevolution, the one that they believe, Darwinism, is based on this, okay? That you had whatever, they have all sorts of different theories. It really depends who you're talking to. Some people say it was rain that fell on rocks, and then the rocks turned into soup, and then the soup started to turn... As if that's actually happening. Do we see anything that's in this huge, long process right now in nature? No, not at all. There's no missing links anyways. But they believe this, that billions of years ago, no one was able to actually verify that this happened, but we just assume that it does. We have blind faith that this occurred. And it teaches that they went from one species to the next, to the next. I mean, a fish became a lizard. All of a sudden, the fishy's chilling in the water, and it's like, I want to go on shore. And it just starts growing little arms. Well, how come there's still fish in the water today, and they're not, like, in a process where you see them, and they got, like, little mini arms out, because it's a continuous evolutionary process, right? No. Okay, God has created all these different species, and they're not morphing one into another or growing into anything else, okay? This is not observable, and you need to have blind faith to believe in this, okay? So then they believe that it went and it continued, and then somehow you had the Neanderthal, which we'll debunk in a future session. That's a bogus lie. They found one tooth, okay, of a pig, and they made an entire Neanderthal man. Yeah. And a wife to go along with him, by the way, okay? And then they put this in the school books, they put this in the things, and then you got these evolutions. Yeah, it's true, man, Neanderthal man. Yeah. No, dude, you don't even know. That's been debunked a long time ago. It was the tooth of a pig, okay? And we can look at that after if you guys want to see the actual video. But what does occur and is observable in nature is what we would call microevolution, which is variations between certain kinds. So you can have like a fox, a dog, a wolf, but they're all part of the same kind. So what they do is they presuppose that because microevolution is observable in nature, that given... Okay, they do this by faith. They believe that millions of years would mean that one changes to another. Even though within all the kinds and species, you don't see any missing links, and there's none morphing right now in a slow process that's going to take millions of years to turn into something else. Okay, so this is what you need to do to them. You need to hit them, and I'll tell you, this will stop them in their tracks, 99% of them. As soon as they go, oh, I believe in evolution, yeah, the schools, you know, Mrs. Lorensky, she told me in grade 9 that that's what happened, so that must be true. Well, when they tell you that, you go, okay, let me talk to you. What is evolution? They won't know how to define it. So you get better at it than them to define it for themselves, okay, for them. And then you start hammering them out. Pretty soon you're going to see there's a different look on their face that's going to happen. Because all of a sudden they're going to start realizing that what they believed, they don't even know much of. Your job is to know more about what they believe than even they do. So you can actually present their position and then demolish it in front of them. Okay? Like we said in the start, you just whack it out. That's it. Okay. So, we'll talk about this more in detail in the future, but the ultimate goal of the evolution lie leads to transhumanism, which is an end-time agenda. You can see this on, what's the guy's name from Big Bang? There's a show about him now. I forget his name. Sheldon. Thank you, Rachel. So Sheldon has a t-shirt that actually shows a robot, and it is the final stage here. So they're actually showing you, okay, what the agenda is. And this is where, if you don't know this agenda, they believe that evolution is continuing, and the next step in human evolution is to merge ourselves with machine. And this isn't just quacky, actually one guy who's was a Google executive was actually Ray Kurzweil, and he wrote a book called Spiritual Machines, The Coming Singularity, and in those books he talks about this spiritual evolution and cybernetic evolution, where man will merge himself with machines. So this is where the overall agenda came from, okay? Now, you'll often hear atheists say, "Oh, there's no, God doesn't exist. Give me proof. What's the proof for God's existence?" Okay, well, there's actually many. So in these sessions together, we're going to look at the ontological arguments. We're going to look at the teleological argument, cosmological arguments, moral arguments, and arguments from experience, and many, many others as well. To say that there's no proof for God's existence is the just pinnacle of utter ignorance, because God has been defended now for hundreds and thousands, hundreds of years, thousands of years, and still to this day, people have not destroyed it. But if you blindly believe what they tell you on an atheist podcast, where most of them are stoned and sitting there getting drunk and acting like Beavis and Butthead, and you thought that that was legitimate, or you trusted your school, you're going to be blind and dumb and think that this is actually the case, that there's no proof for God. But that is absolute stupidity. Just really is. So we'll look at some of these today. Actually, I brought some videos here for us to look at. So yeah. So this is what we're doing, guys. We're training up to kick butt in Jesus' name so that we can be some soldiers and warriors. I'm going to do probably a whole segment on Ben Stein, his documentary called Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. He actually interviews Dawkins here, and I think, if I remember correctly, this is where Dawkins says that we could come from aliens, but yet he has a problem believing in an intelligent God. So he has, you see, because he knows deep down that the world is intelligently designed. So now he has to do, it's not, and he hates the God of the Bible. Hates the God of the Bible. Look at the way this guy describes him. He's saying, that God of the Bible, he's such a malevolent, evil, and the Bible says exactly this, that those who deny God have a hatred towards God. So what he's doing is he's suppressing the truth because he's a hater of God. So he doesn't want to come to God because that means, well, I have to change my life. And this is why they don't want to come to the truth. The Bible says that they suppress the truth in unrighteousness, and that they don't want to come to the light because their deeds will be exposed for what they are. Okay? So it's a lot easier for him to believe in aliens than the God of the Bible. You want to know why? Because once he recognizes that the God of the Bible is real, that means sin is real, that means he has to change. And he doesn't want to change. He wants to continue being his own God. He wants to continue doing his own thing and creating his own morality and all this stuff. So it's a lot easier when they believe in aliens creating us than it is the God of the Bible. Okay, and it's just pure stupidity. This documentary, I'm gonna break it down and we'll dissect it. Hey, thanks, Muay Tiger. Actually talks about these teachers and creation scientists that are getting expelled, kicked out of school, their careers being ruined because they are trying to bring scientific evidence for intelligent design. But you can't do that in today's school brainwashing systems because they need to continue to brainwash the little students that go through there so that their heads are all puffed up and that they think they know, but all they got fed was garbage lies that the system, the institution, wants to condition them with. Okay, so I'll be talking about that more in detail when that comes. This was an interesting article, okay, by James Bishop. This is actually from my friend Stephen Bankar's website, Reasons for Jesus, and there's a whole section there on atheism if you want to check it out. But most scientists believe in God. Do you know that? Because if you actually listen to these kids that come out of school completely brainwashed by their university professors, you would be thinking, well, wait a minute, all the best scientists of the world must not believe in God. But actually, in fact, that's not true. Most scientists believe in God, studies conclude. While it's true that some studies have suggested that disbelief among scientists is higher than that of the general population, there is still a large portion of scientists who believe in God or in some form of transcending being. In fact, studies suggest that most scientists actually believe in some kind of God. One atheist, so they believe in theism. One atheist scientist, Lawrence Krauss, conceded that. Okay, science does not make it possible to believe in God. We should recognize that fact and live with it and stop being so pompous about it. In one study in 1969, the Carnegie Commission National Survey of Higher Education faculty study data suggested that approximately 35% of scientists did not believe in the existence of God. In another major story, Ellen Eklund and Christopher Schedel questioned 2,198 faculty members from a variety of academic disciplines. These include physics, chemistry, biology, sociology, economics, political science, and psychology from 21 elite American research universities. Overall, 75% contacted by the pair of researchers completing the survey and found that among the different disciplines, disbelief in the existence of God was not correlated with any particular area of expertise. Okay, so 75% of these 2,198 academic leaders in different fields, including physics, chemistry, biology, sociology, political science, and psychology, are actually scientists. Okay? So what does that tell you? It's not stupid to believe in God, like the atheists want to brainwash society to think so. That's just not the case at all. Okay? Most scientists believe in God. So it shows you that when they're studying these things, they understand that there's an intelligent designer. But you want to know what's happening in the schools? Well, if you go and you start pushing this out, well, you're going to lose your job. That's what's happening, okay? It's a control system now, okay? Okay, so now let me bring up the other part of the presentations here. So now we're going to look at some videos to debunk evolution. So the first one we're going to watch is Brother Kent Hovind, his video here. 100 reasons why evolution is stupid. I'm actually going to have Kent on, so stay tuned for that. Should be a really, really great show. But we'll do part one because this is a really, really long one.
I'm an evangelist, and I travel around and speak on creation, evolution, and dinosaurs. Hey, because I'm going to show you one.
Okay. That music was annoying me, sorry.
Schools, I'm not against teaching. It is absolutely an awful lot of good godly teachers in the system, but there's some poison in these books. We're going to cover some of that tonight. Richard Dawkins.
I never said I wouldn't talk to Cosmic Skeptic. I'm actually debunking his video right now. He can come talk to me all he wants.
Who hates creationists said, it is absolutely safe to say that if you meet someone who claims not to believe in evolution, that person is ignorant, stupid, or insane, or wicked. Well, Richard, we'll send you a copy of this tape, because I'm going to show you 100 reasons why evolution is so stupid. We need to define a few terms, okay? According to the dictionary, stupid means lacking normal intelligence, foolish, silly, a stupid idea, dull and boring. I think evolution is stupid. Now, my mommy used to get mad at me when I used that word, so it's a little hard for me, but Bill said, Brother Hovind, I want you to preach on 100 reasons why evolution is stupid. Okay, Bill, well, you asked for it, so here goes.
Oh, this is like a guy who's like trying to mess it up. Hold up. Let's get part one.
And there's an awful lot of good science in these books. But and dinosaurs. Honored to be here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. My first time to preach in your city. How many have been to one of my seminars before or have seen one of the tapes before? Oh, quite a few, okay. How many have not? And how many do not understand the question so far? Okay, that's what I thought. Well, great, it's an honor to be here. I tell folks right up front before I get started too far, because I don't want anybody sneaking up on me, I believe the Bible is the infallible, inspired, inerrant word of the living God. I believe it from cover to cover. I even believe the cover on mine says Kent Hovind. I believe that. And what I try to do in my seminars, I have 3 distinct goals. Number 1, I want to strengthen your faith in the Word of God. Number 2, if you're not saved...
This is Kent Hovind, Fernando, and I've done a couple shows with him, and I'm going to be bringing him on. So if you have any questions for him specifically, I just reached out to them, and we're setting up a time for maybe a week or 2.
I'm going to try to get you saved. I'm after you. I'll tell you right now, I'm after you, okay? Number 3, if you're saved and you're not doing much for the Lord, then I'm going to try to make you uncomfortable. Everybody ought to find something to do for the Lord, okay? The worst of you could serve as bad examples, if nothing else. You all find something to do for the Lord. All right, this is not my wife. This is just a picture of her. We live in Pensacola, Florida. I've been there 12 years. We have 3 kids, 1 of each. My kids are, at this time, 21, 22, 23, a year and 2 weeks apart. We call that family planning where I come from. Got the 2 boys married off now, and as soon as I find someone to take over payments on my daughter, I'm going to be home free. So that's the plan. One of my hobbies for many years, I have been collecting science books. I like science. And you can ask any of my kids or ask my wife, when I get bored, I just go off her.
Okay, so this is one of the things to understand. They're always going to make it look like it's either you believe in macroevolution and this religion that the schools are preaching, or science. Well, that's not the case at all, okay? As we just seen, most scientists believe in God. When you try and present intelligent design scientific research to the academic schools, the school system, they reject it, okay? So this is the mind control. And a lot of people, you'll hear them when you debate them or try and reason with them, they'll say, oh, I don't believe in God, I believe in science. Well, science proves God, okay? Real science proves that there's a creator. What we have today is a dogma. It's nonsense that they're believing.
On our place, I just read science books. I like science. Taught it for 15 years. Even though I'm not teaching it anymore, I still like the study. There's so many neat things to learn. And there's an awful lot of good science in these books. But folks, there are some lies in our science books. I'm not against science. I'm not against schools. I'm not against teachers. My brother's in his 34th year teaching public school. My mom retired from teaching public school. There's an awful lot of good godly teachers in the system. But there's some poison in these books. We're going to cover some of that tonight. Richard Dawkins, who hates creationists, said, it is absolutely safe to say that if you meet someone who claims not to believe in evolution...
Like, look at his mindset. Look how much this guy hates Christians. Okay, I just did a video, actually. I uploaded it to my main channel. Oops. Richard Dawkins, owned by Ravi Zacharias. Look what he says. Look at this
when
little...
I meet somebody who claims to be religious, my first impulse is don't believe you. I don't believe you until you tell me. Do you really believe, for example, if they say they're Catholic, do you really believe that when a priest blesses a wafer, it turns into the body of Christ? Are you seriously telling me?
I don't believe that, by the way, the
you
Eucharist.
believe that? Are you seriously saying that wine turns into blood? Mock them, ridicule them.
Mock them, ridicule them. Wow. And these guys clap. There's an audience of lost sheep blindly following this hate-filled man. Mock them? We just talked about at the start here, okay? The type of attitude that we should have when we dialogue with people. Do you see the hatred that's brewing inside of this man, okay? He hates God. He hates the truth, and this is why he's on a mission. He's a hate-filled individual, okay? You can check that video out. Just Ravi smokes him.
To make a statement like that, he reminded me of 2 other things.
Too smart. Ravi's too smart, too humble, and too decent to even... by the way, Richard keeps ducking Ravi. He won't debate him. He's scared, okay? Just to let you know. But notice this. It is absolutely safe to say that if you meet someone who claims not to believe in evolution, macroevolution, hey, what's up, Dawkins? That's me. That person is ignorant, stupid, or insane, or wicked. Oh, really? So I'm stupid, ignorant? No, you're hate-filled, and this is why you go on this maniac attack and telling your own followers to mock people who don't see the same way that they do.
That person is ignorant, stupid, or insane, or wicked. Well, Richard, let's send you a copy of this tape, because I'm going to show you 100 reasons why evolution is so stupid. We need to define a few terms, okay? According to the dictionary, stupid means lacking normal intelligence, foolish, silly, a stupid idea, dull and boring. I think evolution is stupid. Now, my mommy used to get mad at me when I used that word, so it's a little hard for me, but Bill said, Brother Hovind, I want you to preach on 100 reasons why evolution is stupid. Okay, Bill, well, you asked for it, so here goes, all right? Let's define some other terms now. The word evolution has at least 6 different meanings, and I've done 58 debates now, and if you're going to get into a debate on evolution with anybody, you better first define what you're talking about.
Okay, this is strategy number 1, guys. So remember, we're talking about apologetics, how to block. Well, if someone comes and they throw the right hook of, I believe in science and evolution, they throw that one, this is the blocking technique.
This is a very slippery term, okay? First, we have cosmic evolution. That would be the Big Bang. There is no evidence whatsoever for that. We'll get into that in just a moment. Then we'd have to have chemical evolution. See, the Big Bang supposedly made hydrogen. Well, how did we get 92 elements, plus the synthetic ones? I mean, how did the chemicals evolve? They don't talk about that much, but that would have to happen. Thirdly, we'd have to have stellar and planetary evolution. But you know the stars would have to evolve. There's an awful lot of stars out there, folks, but nobody's ever seen one form. There's enough stars out there that everybody on Earth can personally own 2 trillion of them. We've never seen one star forming. We see them blow up from time to time. It's called a nova or a supernova. We've never seen one form. One professor told me one time, he said, well, we calculated in the laboratory that if 20 stars explode near each other, it'll produce enough energy to make a...
Okay, wait a second. We got the Riddler. By using techniques called the molecular clock, which estimates the time required for a number of divergent mutations to accumulate between 2 lineages. You've never observed that, okay? So that is a theory. You're assuming, okay, and you have faith that one species goes to an X. It's never been proven. So just because you have all these fancy little techniques and big little words and you guys think yourselves to have it figured out, the Bible actually says that you're puffed up on your own knowledge. Your head's so swollen up, according to the Bible, that you've made yourself stupid by believing this stuff. Okay, followed by gorillas and ultimately by chimpanzees. The splitting date between hominin and chimpanzee lineage is placed. This is all just fairy tale. You have no actual science to show it. You have assumptions. Show me the missing link. Show me where it is. Okay, are you want to talk? Is it is it one of these there?
We're going to talk about the cavemen and quite a few other topics. The Bible says in Genesis 1, God said, I'm going to make man in his own image. If we're made in the image of God, why do we teach the kids Grandpa was an ape? Now, evolution teaches we're getting better, and someday we're going to become God. The facts are, we're getting worse.
There's no point in trying to persuade you, because you don't have actual fact. What you've just said to me is because we observe this and we have this very fancy technique that we assume no one's seen it, because I want stuff to be scientific fact. I want you to have observed, not, we theorize that over the time, these mutations that are happening in microevolution, which I don't deny, I know microevolution is happening. You're just taking little fancy techniques and stuff to assume that one species is going to another. It's never been observed. So that's fine. You can believe what you want by faith, that's fine. You can believe in your textbooks, you can believe in your teachers, you can believe in your books. Go ahead, that's fine with me. But don't tell me I have scientific fact for macroevolution, from one species going to another, because you don't. All you are doing is assuming, okay, we're verifying within this that it takes a little amount of time. Okay, I don't even care. What are you trying to say? It takes, will take 5 minutes. Obviously it doesn't, but let's just say 5 minutes. It takes 5 minutes for one species it's still not becoming another kind, and it's not being observed ever that a monkey became this or a dog became that. Nowhere in science, okay? Let's stick to facts here. It's okay if you have theories and stuff. I'm just not going to allow you to state that you have fact when you don't. You have theories and ideas based on concepts that you have in school. Evolution, which can be found in many textbooks, originally the vast majority of peppered moths, Bistons, had a blue light. So what? They had a blue light. Where's the missing link? And by the way, what he's about to do right now in this presentation is show you that the textbooks have lies. Do you know that they lied to you in the textbooks? Do you know that? And it's been proven that they kept lies in the textbook for the children for over 20 to 30 years, because it's in this presentation, by the way. After the Industrial Revolution, 95% of peppered moths showed this dark color. They're still peppered moths. They're still peppered moths. I'm not debating microevolution here. We're talking about macroevolution. One species going to another. You have no scientific proof. So what? The species occurred is that the light moths lost their advantage to camouflage. They didn't become something else. So none of that proves anything. Show me where one creature becomes another. Show me. Stop saying there's little variations within the kinds. I'm not debating that. Okay? And that's a pointless, nonsensical thing to bring up. It makes no sense. Who cares? Okay? The moth started to glow and then they didn't glow. When did the moth become a bird? When does the moth become a rat? When does the moth become another being? Because that's what macroevolution, the lie that's pushed in the school systems, is teaching. And that is not observed in science. There are no missing links out there. Okay? So you can keep on bringing up all these microevolution facts that within this, but all you have to do, okay, is you theorize that over a long span of time, these things will occur. Show me where it has occurred. Show me where I can scientifically observe, verify, and say, you know what? Boom. There is one species going to another. I don't want to talk about little things that happen within the variations. Microevolution is not up for debate. We're debating macroevolution. Monkeys turning into humans. Show me where that happened. Okay? Then what I'll show you is they make stuff up. They make stuff up, okay? You know, look how desperate they are. And you got to think about why they make stuff up. They found the tooth of a pig. And out of the tooth of a pig, they created a Neanderthal man. Okay? Because they're desperate to lie about this. They're desperate to brainwash you kids in the school. Okay? You think you're smart? You're not smart. You're sitting there reading the textbooks. The textbooks is what they want you to believe. You just absorb it blindly, and then you regurgitate what they told you was the truth, and you're graded according to how much of a sponge you can be for their information. Not making you intelligent at all. If you were really intelligent, you would question the information. Real intelligence would look at, wait a sec, where did you get this? Where in the textbooks does it, this stuff come from? And then what you'd realize is they've been lying over and over.
Things are falling apart. We now have an incredible genetic load. We are mentally and physically deficient. Caveman, okay? There are people today who live in caves. Was your ancestor an ape-like creature? I don't think so. Let's talk about a few of the so-called cavemen. We could spend hours on this topic, but we got more to cover here. Nebraska man was used for years as evidence for evolution. All they found for Nebraska man was one tooth.
Used as proof for evolution, they found one tooth. We have been saying this over and over. It's a lie. Okay, so you see how they have to use lies. They find the tooth of a pig, and then they put that in the school system for the kids.
That is the entire Nebraska man right there. One tooth. Then they built an entire man from that one tooth and later made him a wife. Now you have to really be good to know what his wife looks like from his tooth. Okay, but these are professionals. Don't question them, okay? They know what they're talking about. Later they found out the tooth actually came from a pig. There's the real Nebraska man right there.
A tooth that they found from a pig. They created an entire thing that was up in a museum and is in the textbooks. This is how desperate they are to lie to you guys. okay? It's called brainwashing. That's what this is. It's the school systems conditioning and mind controlling you with lies that have been disproven many times and for many years, but they still continue with the agenda.
How about Piltdown Man, named after the gravel pit it was found in Piltdown, England? Somebody took a human skull and an ape's jaw, they filed them down and fooled everybody. In 1912, they discovered the Piltdown Man. It was in the New York Times. Darwin theory proved true from the Piltdown Man.
Right? Darwin's theory proved true. They found an ape. They shaved it down. They made it. They literally frauded. Scientific fraud. Okay? Well, we found a book. It must be true. Okay, now you're not even making sense, Riddler. Where is your proof for macroevolution? Come on, bud. Give me macroevolution proof here. One species going to another. Don't bring up another thing about microevolution.
It was going to be used in 1925 at the Scopes monkey trial as part of the evidence for evolution. But the judge said the question is not, is there evidence for evolution? The question is, did he violate...
Okay, so now notice the Riddler, okay? So I just nailed him. I took him out on his stuff. He realizes now that there is no macroevolution. So now he has to turn it around. He has to say, prove God to me. I actually will be doing an entire show. If you want to be a fan and allow me to show you... not today, but we will go through the different arguments for the existence of God. We'll go, actually, if you stay a little bit, I'm going to show you the moral argument for God. We're also going to look at cosmological arguments, ontological arguments, and many, many others, okay? So just stay tuned. There are many that are coming your way, but it's very important for us to understand this, that they are lying to the kids. They make stuff up in the schools. They keep them in the textbooks to make people blind and ignorant.
So he was found guilty of breaking the law. The teacher was John T. Scopes down here in Dayton, Tennessee. But Piltdown Man was a hoax. Somebody had taken an ape's jawbone and a human skull, broke the TMJs off, made them fit together, and fooled everybody, filed the teeth down. For 40 years, it was in the textbooks as...
40 years! They had a known fraud in the textbooks. Trust me, there's some today. We're going to find out in 10, 15 years that it was lies. The schools are brainwashing. Come on. I figured that out when I was in grade 4, okay? You think the schools are there to educate you, bud? Really? Come on. Grade 4, there was something internally that just, I was like, it was like an internal alarm. Like, whoa, this is not for education. This is mind control that I'm at right now. I was in grade 4 and I figured this out, okay? The school system today is not to produce wisdom. Okay, because I stated by facts. Okay, we're going to get rid of the Riddler, guys, because he's not even making sense. He just got slayed and doesn't know how to handle it. And now he's just being ridiculous, okay? So no, Riddler, you did not prove anything. You did not make actual facts. You didn't present actual facts for macroevolution one to another, okay? So now that you can't handle it anymore and you just can't even, Mr. Darwin, I can debate. Well, go ahead, throw your things in, but I'm still presenting. We're going over all this stuff. You guys are welcome to stay till the end. I'll take on some people, but we have a lot of information to get through. So anyways, this video, guys, just to let you know, they're making stuff up, okay, in the textbooks. They're lying to us. When someone says Neanderthal and all that stuff, it's just pure nonsense.
Brand new star. I said, well, that's brilliant. You got to lose 20 to gain 1. You ought to run for Congress. You can help those guys borrow their way out of debt. Man, first place, that's all theoretical. We've never seen it happen, okay? And I think it is scientifically impossible. See, then we'd have to have organic evolution. That would be the origin of life. How did life get started from non-living material? Now, according to the evolution theory, that would have to happen somewhere along the line, long ago and far away. Life had to come from non-living material. And yet, we've never seen that happen. There is no evidence that it can happen. We'll talk about that in a minute. Fifthly, we would have macroevolution. That is where an animal changes into a different kind of animal. Nobody's ever seen a dog produce a non-dog. But the evolutionist believes a dog came from a rock. If you go back far enough in time, 4.6 billion years. Finally, we have microevolution. I don't like this word, okay, because it gets people confused. I think we ought to just call it a variation. But microevolution happens, folks. That is a fact of science. Animals produce a variety of offspring, but it's always the same kind. The first 5 definitions of evolution are stupid.
Thanks,
it
sweetheart.
doesn't happen. It's certainly not part of science. It's something you have to believe in. They teach the kids it all started with a Big Bang 20 billion years ago. A Big Bang. I'd like to ask him some simple questions. What exploded?
Right? Okay. Just pause for a sec. They want us to believe that there was nothing. There's nothing. And then all of a sudden, for no reason, without intelligence behind it, that nothing exploded. And I was listening to the Cosmic Skeptic, this guy I'm going to respond to. It doesn't matter. He goes, well, it didn't really explode. It more like... I don't care. It doesn't matter how does nothing expand? How does nothing explode? How does nothing become something? Tell me that. Okay? Nothing is nothing, so nothing can you ever see nothing just spontaneously explode for no reason? Has anyone observed just a nothingness just boom explode into a whole intelligently designed universe and that? No. Okay? Nothing became everything. Exactly, Kayla. It's so dumb to think that nothing could become... I will debate him. No problem. I'll gladly debate him. The kid thinks he's smart, but he has nothing, okay? So that's all they want to believe. They just want to believe that nothing exploded, okay? And it's pure stupid.
Where did it come from? And where did the energy come from? Et cetera, et cetera. According to the Big Bang Theory, it all started with a little tiny dot and exploded and spread out over all the universe at much faster than the speed of light. Well, the Big Bang Theory, as we'll see in a minute, is stupid. I don't know of a better way to say it. I'm trying to be nice to him, but it is just stupid. The Big Bang idea started with a Belgian astronomer named George something, can't pronounce his last name. George said that this original matter was no more than a few light years in diameter. At the very least, that would be 2, or about 12 trillion miles. So they started off teaching a spot 12 trillion miles across was what exploded. Well, they revised that down. In 1965, they said, no, it was only 275 million miles across. Well, that's way down from 12 trillion. 1972, they said, no, it's only 71 million miles across. I don't know how they know this stuff, but this is what they taught, okay? 1974, they said it was only 54,000 miles across. 1983, they said it was the trillionth the diameter of a proton. Now they're saying it's nothing at all. Nothing exploded. And here we are. This is what the textbooks teach. 18 to 20 billion years ago, all the matter in the universe was concentrated into one very dense, very hot region that may have been much smaller than a period on this page. That's stupid. This one says, all of the matter and energy someday will once again be packed into a small area, no bigger than the period at the end of this sentence.
Right. So all of the energy and everything was just in a little dot for some reason. Bang! The thing blew up for no reason. It's just insane. I'm Christian.
Another Big Bang will occur.
I'm a Baptist.
It happens every 80 to 100 billion years. So you can forget about global warming. We're going to get squished. Now, this textbook author was brilliant. I could not believe how smart this guy was. He said, boys and girls, nothing really means nothing. You have to be at least that smart to write a book. He said, not only matter and energy would disappear, but also space and time. However, physicists theorize that from this state of nothingness, the universe began in a gigantic explosion. What? Yes, boys and girls, you see, nothing exploded, and here we are. Who can argue with logic like that? Man, they even put this in major science journals like Scientific American. This fellow said, the observable universe, that would be us, could have evolved, there's that word again, you got to watch that one, okay, 6 meanings, from an infinitesimal region. In the Greek, that means a dot. It's then tempting to go one step further and speculate that the entire universe evolved from literally nothing. They call that science and put it in a science book. I would call that stupid and put it in the garbage. This is what the books teach. I collect them. I've got hundreds and hundreds of these books from countries all over the world, clear back from 1890s up until the 2001 textbook. They're teaching this kind of stuff, folks. This one says, all the matter in the universe was drawn into this little tiny dot, and it spun faster and faster. This is what they teach the kids. Some kids doing this for homework.
There is a laryngeal nerve in giraffes. So, What does that have to do with anything? Oh my goodness. Larry... How did you write that? Laren... Jill... What is this? How does this prove that one species went to a next? Can you explain that to me? We're talking about missing links, guys. Guys, you got a lot more proof to come up with if you're going to say that one animal went into it and became another animal, okay? And this is not proof. So what? So what? They have that there. Thanks, Chris. There's nothing. Sure. Okay. They have that in their neck. That's the missing link. Are you kidding me? That's not proof. See, guys, watch this pattern. They're going to bring pathetic, weak arguments and scientific mumbo jumbo that they have to stretch out. Well, this giraffe has a laryngeal nerve that connects the brain to the larynx. Well, that must mean that it can't. That must mean, let me assume and just theorize that that's true, and I'll present it to you like it's fact. Well, buddy, that doesn't prove nothing. Where's the missing link? Where's the missing link? So what? The giraffe has an extra laryngeal nerve. That has nothing to do with anything. Okay, let's move on here. Let's go back to rational stuff here.
Tonight, right? It spun faster and faster. One day, it exploded. Big bang. I was talking to a professor from Berkeley one time. I was sitting on the airplane next to a professor from Berkeley University. I don't know if you folks here in Idaho ever heard of Berkeley or not. But Berkeley is not a Bible college. So we got talking about the Big Bang, and he said he believed in the Big Bang Theory. I said, yes, sir, I figured that. You have to teach at Berkeley. I said, tell me, sir, how did the universe get here? He said, well, 20 billion years ago, all the matter was squished in this little tiny dot, and it was spinning real fast, and it exploded. Big Bang. And pieces flew off and became the galaxies and the sun, the moon, stars, and finally, people. Here we are. I said, sir, could I ask you a couple questions, please? One of my favorite things to do in life is asking questions to people who believe in evolution. I absolutely have a wonderful... That's how this whole ministry started. 12 years ago, I moved to Pensacola, Florida. Some article came out in the newspaper that said dinosaur bones found in Montana from 80 million years ago. I wrote my first letter to the editor in my life, about 12 years ago. I wrote a letter to the editor. I said, yes, they found dinosaur bones, and yes, it was 40 feet long, and yes, it was found in Montana, but it was not from 80 million years ago. This one probably drowned in the flood in the days of Noah, 4,400 years ago. And you would have thought I shot the sacred cow. Actually, I did. Boy, there began to be quite a battle in the newspaper, letters to the editor flying back and forth, and finally a university called me and asked me to do a debate with one of their professors. Well, I'd never had a debate in my life, except with my wife, and I lost those every time. So I was not excited about debating, but I said, well, how do you do it? What do you want? And the guy said, well, you send us 30 questions, and the other guy will send in 30 questions, and we'll discuss those questions for the debate. I said, okay. So I sent him 30 questions. I thought they were perfectly legitimate, fair questions. I said, a woodpecker's tongue goes all the way around the back of his head and comes on top of his left eyebrow, left nostril here. Would you please show me any fossils that have been found, intermediate species between a normal bird and a woodpecker, with his tongue going all the way around his head? What evidence do you have of how this evolved? That question never came up. I don't know what happened to it. But I said, termites chew on wood and they swallow.
You skipped Rational Wiki's explanation of the lineal nerve. Now, Rational Wiki is basically an atheist, just nonsense site, okay? So it's garbage. So life came from the sea. You assume it does, okay? You have no science to prove that. That is your theory. In fish, it made sense for it to connect both larynx. It doesn't... You assume, okay, that that life came out of sea, because you blindly believe the textbooks that have been lying to you. So no, life did not come from sea. Life came from God, who spoke it into existence, okay? And he created all the animals, and in their own kinds, he created them already. So your pre-assumption that life came from the water, so what? Show me an intermediate species. That doesn't matter, because they have similar things that creatures in the water do. Where's the missing link? I'm always going to bring you back to this. Where is the missing link? Where is the half-fish giraffe? Okay, where's the fish out there with the giraffe head? Okay, this half creature that is the intermediary between. You actually trying to tell me that a giraffe was once a fish? Can you see how dumb this is? You're trying to tell me that a giraffe was one day, a giraffe's grandpa was swimming in the water before, and then said, you know what, I'm going to crawl on land, I'm going to get some legs, I'm going to grow into a lizard, and then I'm going to grow into this long, like, this is so dumb! Are you kidding me? Listen to your own logic, how stupid that is. I'm sorry, that is so dumb. A fish decided all of a sudden, because we all know they're really that intelligent. You know, the fish in the water today, they're doing the same thing. They're like, what should I evolve into? Hey Larry, what's up? I don't know there, Frank, how you doing? I'm doing good. I was thinking I should get on land pretty soon. I'm going to just start growing legs. And I don't know how I'm going to do this. It's just going to happen. Power of evolution, Larry. And I'm going to flop on the water here until I grow some legs. And then once I grow some legs, I'm going to grow on the ground as a lizard for a little bit. And then once I'm done, it's so dumb. Oh, my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm just going to block you there. You're just getting wrecked, buddy, and you just can't handle it, and that's sad. Okay, so stay in your ignorance. It's so dumb. The fish aren't sitting there trying to figure out what species they're going to turn into next, okay? Okay, and they didn't. No little lizard decided to grow a super long neck and become this amazing, majestic giraffe, okay? And giraffe happens to be one of my favorite animals. So no, my favorite animal, one of the favorites is a giraffe. It didn't come from a fishy one day. That is so dumb. Get real, guys. They're lying to you in the schools. I know it's hard to break out of mind control. I know it's hard when you've been so programmed by your teachers, your textbooks, and the world. But wake up. You believe in something that's pure stupidity. The fish ain't sitting there in the water today trying to figure out what they're going to evolve with next. And the giraffe's grandpa was not a fishy. Okay, it wasn't a goldfish that eventually just said, like it's like the Little Mermaid, I want to go and I want to be outside of the water. I want to be No, fish don't think like that. They just swim around and they don't have a mental process. And it's not like this evolution is even happening, okay? We don't even have any intermediary species, okay? Okay, guys, so we're going to go on now to a few more arguments. We'll touch back on this one in another one. So it's like a 2-hour seminar. We'll touch base. I'll have him on so that you guys can ask him questions yourselves. Now I want to look at the moral arguments for God. So just give me a quick second here. I got to find which one it is. Okay. Now, so going back to what I was saying... Okay, there are different arguments for God, and we're going to look at each one of them. Well, now we're going to look at what's called the moral argument, okay? So this is one that without God, there would be no objective morality, which is absolutely true. So you see, you can defend God from a philosophical, scientific perspective as well. So now let's take a look at morals, or the moral argument.
Can you be good without God? Let's find out.
Oops.
Can you be good without God? Let's find out. Absolutely astounding. There you have it. Undeniable proof that you can be good without believing in God. But wait, the question isn't, can you be good without believing in God? The question is, can you be good without God? See, here's the problem. If there is no God, what basis remains for objective good or bad, right or wrong? If God does not exist, objective moral values do not exist. And here's why. Without some objective reference point, we have no way of saying that something is really up or down. God's nature provides an objective reference point for moral values. It's the standard against which all actions and decisions are measured. But if there's no God, there's no objective reference point. All we're left with is one person's viewpoint, which is no more valid than anyone else's viewpoint. This kind of morality is subjective, not objective.
Okay. So this is moral relativism, subjective morality. That just doesn't even make sense, okay? So what does that mean? Okay, so this is what you also have to realize. When an atheist or a non-believer is trying to make a moral statement to say something is wrong, then they're basically doing they're recognizing that there is an objective morality, that there is right and wrong, that it does exist. Subjective means that we all get to decide. Okay, so I'll tell you how right and wrong was decided. God decided himself. He did not put it in the hands of humans. And in fact, he imprinted us so that we have a conscience to tell us when we're doing right or wrong. And the right or wrong is not according to us. If it was subjective morality, so morality itself was something that we could all decide, that means that I can decide what's right, you can decide what's right, a pedophile can decide what's right, all these different things, okay? It seems that way. Okay, so you have, and that's just not the case, okay? Because if that was really the case, then you would have all these different people making up these different moral standards of what's right or wrong, okay? If you believe that humans are allowed to make up their own right or wrong and that there isn't a God that lays it out, well, then you better have the respect to let everyone do that. I'm allowed. I'm a God of my own world, right? That's what you're saying. You're saying there's no God out there. You can decide for yourself. So you're saying, okay, I can be the God of my own world and I can decide what's right or wrong. So you better not come and impose on me your right or wrong moral values, okay? And same thing for the pedophile over there. He's allowed to decide what's right or wrong. You want to know why that resonated wrongly with you? Because God does exist. Because there is an objective right and there is an objective wrong, okay? And we don't get to, as humans, just decide what that is, okay?
It's like a preference for strawberry ice cream. The preference is in the subject, not the object. So it doesn't apply to other people. In the same way, subjective morality applies only to the subject. It's not valid or binding for anyone else. So, in a world without God, there can be no evil and no good. Nothing but blind, pitiless indifference.
Richard Dawkins, this great philosopher. Look at how philosophically adept this guy is. There's no evil, there's no good. Nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. Really? Really? Well, I'm sure he'd be singing a different tune if, we were allowed to send him to a Chinese torture prison and they were able to torture him. He'd probably start thinking that evil does exist then. Okay, but you see that the blindness that comes from adopting such a philosophy, okay? The reason I'm wearing a headband is because we're doing apologetics and I'm defending the faith up in here. So I went warrior style, but I got a little martial artist. Wah!
God has expressed his moral nature to us as commands. These provide the basis for moral duties. For example, God's essential attribute of love is expressed in his command to love your neighbor as yourself. This command provides a foundation upon which we can affirm the objective goodness of generosity, self-sacrifice, and equality. And we can condemn as objectively evil greed, abuse, and discrimination. This raises a problem. Is something good just because God wills it, or does God will something because it is good? The answer is neither one. Rather, God wills something because he is good. God is the standard of moral values, just as a live musical performance is the standard for a high-fidelity recording.
Without your love.
The more a recording sounds like the original, the better it is. Likewise, the more closely a moral action conforms to God's nature, the better it is. But if atheism is true, there is no ultimate standard. So there can be no moral obligations or duties. Who or what lays such duties upon us?
Exactly. So if atheism is true, it's that there is no moral lawgiver. So God doesn't exist. You have to remove him. And then there is no objective moral standard for us to base our good and bad on. Okay? So this is why this philosophy just falls apart.
No one. Remember, for the atheist, humans are just accidents of nature, highly evolved animals. But animals have no moral obligations to one another. When a cat kills...
Right. The cat kills... My cat are pretty hardcore, okay? My cat, literally last summer, I'm not letting them out anymore because they're too savage, but they had a little, like, dead animal graveyard that they were setting up at the side of the house. I couldn't believe it. I found, like, a grown rabbit whose throat was eaten up. Yojo had gotten a mini little chipmunk that he put there with a couple mouse, and I'm like, oh, well, thanks, guys. Was it morally wrong for my cat to do that? No. Okay? So we're not just animals. We're created in the image of God. He's placed in us right or wrong in our hearts. That's why no human can go kill. Okay? But there's nothing wrong for animals to do that. Okay? So that's why we're not animals.
As a mouse, it hasn't done anything morally wrong. The cat's just being a cat. If God doesn't exist, we should view human behavior in the same way. No action should be considered morally right or wrong. But the problem is, good and bad, right and wrong, do exist. Just as our sense experience convinces us that the physical world is objectively real, our moral experience convinces us that moral values are objectively real. Every time you say, hey, that's not fair, that's wrong, that's an injustice, you affirm your belief in the existence of objective morals.
Right? Because if you're an atheist and you get robbed, you can't even say that that was wrong. There is no right or wrong. Why? It was wrong to you? Well, it wasn't wrong to the thief because he gets to decide, just like you do. You've made yourself a god of your own world. You're deciding for yourself what's right or wrong. Well, you let other people do that. And it's survival of the strongest, right? So, well, he seemed smarter than you. He robbed you. So, there. You can't bring morality into this. So this is why God, one of the proofs of God, is that humans have a sense of morality, that we have this inner knowing, or should have, of right or wrong, okay?
We're well aware that child abuse, racial discrimination, and terrorism are wrong. For everybody. Always. Is this just a personal preference or opinion? No. The man who says that it is morally acceptable to rape little children is just as mistaken as the man who says 2 + 2 = 5. What all this amounts to, then, is a moral argument for the existence of God. If God does not exist, objective moral values and duties do not exist. But objective moral values and duties do exist. Therefore, God exists.
If God does not exist, if you take God out of it, objective moral values and duties do not exist. But objective moral values and duties do exist. We experience that. We know that. Therefore, God exists. This is a philosophical way of approaching to let someone know that God, one of the arguments for the proof of God.
Atheism fails to provide a foundation for the moral reality every one of us experiences every day.
It fails to provide an answer for the moral dilemma and experience that we have. Okay, so this worldview, the one that we represent, is solid. Okay?
In fact, the existence of objective morality points us directly to the existence of God.
Okay, so that video, this is Dr. Craig, his YouTube channel. It's called Dr. Craig Videos. Okay, and I got another one. Okay, so this is the ontological argument.
In the year 1078, a monk named Anselm of Canterbury astonished the world by arguing that if it is even possible that God exists, then it follows logically that God does exist. Anselm's argument came to be called the ontological argument, and it has sharply divided philosophers ever since. The 19th century German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer called it a charming joke, but many prominent 20th century philosophers, such as Charles Hartshorne, Norman Malcolm, and Alvin Plantinga, think that it's sound. Here it is. God can be defined as a maximally great being. If something were greater than God, then that being would be God. And in order to be maximally great, a maximally great being would have to be all-powerful, all-knowing, and morally perfect in every possible world. Possible worlds are simply ways the world could have been. To say that something exists in a possible world is just to say that if the world were that way, then the thing would have existed. For example, even though unicorns don't exist in the actual world, it seems at least possible that they could have. So we can say that unicorns exist in some possible world. On the other hand, a married bachelor does not exist in any possible world because the idea of a married bachelor is logically incoherent. It could not possibly exist. So if it is possible that a maximally great being exists, then we can say that he exists in some possible world. But wait, a maximally great being would not really be maximally great if it existed in only some possible worlds. To be maximally great, it has to be all-powerful, all-knowing, and morally perfect in every possible world. So think about it. If a maximally great being exists in any possible world, then it exists in every possible world. And if it exists in every possible world, then it exists in the actual world. That is, a maximally great being actually exists. Thus, the atheist has to maintain not simply that God does not exist, but that it is impossible that God exists. Here's a summary of the ontological argument. Steps 2 through 6 are straightforward and largely uncontroversial. But what about point number 1? Clearly, if it can be shown that the idea of a God is logically incoherent, then the argument fails. But is the idea of a maximally great being absurd, like a married bachelor, or a square circle, or the smell of blue? This doesn't seem to be the case. The notion of an all-powerful, all-knowing, morally perfect being that exists in every possible world seems to be a perfectly coherent idea. But couldn't we parody this argument and make it work for anything? Why not say, it's logically possible that a maximally great pizza exists. Therefore, a maximally great pizza does exist? However, the idea of a maximally great pizza is not like the idea of a maximally great being. In the first place, there aren't intrinsic maximal values that make pizzas great. There could always be one more pepperoni to increase its greatness. It's not even obvious what properties make a pizza great. Thin crust or thick crust, extra cheese, anchovies? It's relative to the taste of the consumer. In the second place, a maximally great pizza would have to exist in every logical possible world. But that would mean that it couldn't be eaten. So it wouldn't really be a pizza, because a pizza is something you can eat. The idea of a maximally great pizza turns out not to be a coherent idea. The idea of God, on the other hand, is an intuitively coherent idea. Therefore, his existence is a possibility. And the ontological argument shows that if God possibly exists, then God actually exists.
Cool. So I'm actually going to do a whole, that's a little bit more complicated, but we'll do an entire session on this argument one of the times. The next thing I want to point out as well, why atheism and believing in not God is extremely destructive, is And by the way, there's more atheists statistically that commit suicide, and that has to do with the fact that they're being brainwashed to believe that they are just simply a random explosion created them, and they have no purpose or identity. And when they go to the ground, who cares? There is no meaning to life. They have no purpose, no identity. The one they can give themselves, but what is the shallow, pathetic, sad meaning someone can give themselves apart from God? I mean, it's not going to bring deep soul fulfillment here.
You know, nobody asked me if I wanted to exist. Yeah, one day, boom, there you are. And you think to yourself, why am I here? Well, what do you think? Is there a reason we're here? Do our lives have any real significance?
Well, that depends.
On what?
On whether or not God exists.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that my life has no significance because I don't believe in God?
No, not at all. I'm saying that if God doesn't exist, it doesn't matter what you believe. Our lives would have no objective meaning, value, or purpose. Many atheists themselves recognize this. If atheism is true, life is absurd.
Okay, and why do they think that?
To begin with, if God does not exist, then the physical universe is all there is. Which means you and I are just accidental byproducts of nature.
Right, so?
That means we were not intentionally designed, so there's no purpose for us being here.
Whoa.
It gets worse. If God does not exist, there is no absolute standard of moral value. You've heard of Richard Dawkins, the atheist. He points out that in a materialistic universe, there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but pointless indifference.
So, you're saying atheists can't be good people?
No, I'm not saying that. Many atheists live good lives. What I'm saying is, atheism fails to provide an objective basis for saying any particular action is good or evil.
Oh, come on. After millions of years of sociobiological evolution, humans have developed a sense of morality. We all know it's good to feed a hungry child and bad to torture someone for fun.
Of course we do, but that's precisely what atheism cannot explain. If there's no God, then what we consider right or wrong is nothing more than an accident of evolution or a human social convention.
So what? I'm good with that.
Really? Evolution implies survival of the fittest, not morality. And social convention means that racism, intolerance, and cruelty are not really wrong. They just happen to be unpopular.
Okay, so atheists need to come up with some objective standard for rights and wrongs. How about this? If an action leads to human flourishing, then we can say it's objectively good. And if it doesn't, it's objectively evil.
But why think that human flourishing is good? Aren't you being species-centric? Why not refer instead to the flourishing of rats or cabbages?
Well,
And who gets to decide what contributes to human flourishing? Hitler was convinced killing millions of Jews would promote human flourishing. And Margaret Sanger thought forcing poor people to be sterilized would lead to human flourishing. As Kai Nielsen points out, pure practical reason will not take you to morality. So if atheism is true, there is no legitimate basis for saying that behaving one way is worse than behaving any other way. So it really doesn't matter how you live your life. Your day-to-day choices are meaningless.
that's depressing.
So if there's no God, what happens when you die?
Well, nothing. You simply cease to exist.
Right. So one person lives a kind, generous, thoughtful life. Another lives a horrible, violent, selfish life. It doesn't matter. In both cases, the outcome is the same. Nothingness.
Right? No justice here as well.
Both case.
Okay, so the one difference here as well to point out, notice this. What is even the point of being good if you believe that there is no God? Because there's no one going to judge you at the end of your life. You could live an entire life, horrible, violent, selfish, murderer, drug dealer, you could do all that stuff. And guess what? The court systems today don't give us justice. You can pay off the judge. Sometimes if you're big enough in the mob, the judge is actually paid off and on the bankroll, the payroll. You have lawyers that you can pay off. it's corrupt. So you're not going to get justice here on earth. And in fact, today, many evil criminals are going to die, and they lived a good life here on earth. They were chilling in Miami, Bahamas. They were living it up, taking advantage of these big, rich corporate pigs that just don't care about people, and they just took advantage of their workers, and they laid off. None of that matters. They're going to die, and guess what? It was the same as the person who was kind, generous, loving. No. God is coming to judge the world. There's a reason that you have this internal knowing that there is morality, there is a good or bad. And internally, deep down inside, you should respond to that. Okay, but if you believe in atheism, what's the point? It's just survival of the fittest. Live how you want. Do as thou wilt. Be your own God. Create your own rules and regulations. Okay?
The outcome is the same. Nothingness.
Do you only do good because of punishment? You do good. Sorry. No, I don't. The reason I do good is because I've been forgiven of my sin, and God has transformed me, and I recognize that doing good is what God has called me to. Okay?
So how can their life choices have any objective meaning?
Well, it's certainly meaningful if I discover a cure for cancer or save a child's life.
I agree completely. But atheism can't explain why. Scientists predict that eventually the whole universe and mankind with it will die out. So everything comes to nothing. That's why atheist Bertrand Russell says we must build our lives on the firm foundation of despair.
No thanks. I'd rather live a happy life.
You're not alone. Every atheist has to choose between being happy or being consistent. You can tell the whole world you're an atheist, but you can't really live like one.
Okay, so you're a Christian. If your God did exist, how would that change anything?
If Christianity is true, then each one of us is here for a reason, and life does not end at the grave. And God, He's the absolute standard of goodness. He knows you, He loves you, and He intentionally created you. So your life ultimately does have objective meaning, value, and purpose. That means you can live a life that's both happy and consistent.
Well, that doesn't prove Christianity's true.
Agreed. I'm simply pointing out that for Christians, living a life that is both happy and consistent is possible. For atheists, it's not. So what are you going to choose?
Amen. Okay, so there is no purpose to life, okay? There is no purpose to life in atheism, and that is why atheists take their lives. There's a large number of them. Now we're going to look at this one. Which one's this? This is the column cosmological argument.
Does God exist? Or is the material universe all that is, or ever was, or ever will be? One approach to answering this question is the cosmological argument. It goes like this. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore, the universe has a cause. Is the first premise true? Let's consider. Believing that something can pop into existence without a cause is more of a stretch than believing in magic. At least with magic, you've got a hat and a magician. And if something can come into being from nothing, then what?
What's going on, Marc-Andre? You want to come on? I'll guest you on. Here, come on. Come and tell me. Tell me how this is fact. Why'd you hang up? Come on, Mark. Let's go. I'll bring you right on to debate me. Let's go. Why would you decline? Come on. Talk a big game. Let's hear it. Let's do it. Come on, Mark. Let's go. Don't be talking smack if you can't back it up, buddy. Come on. Come on. You're 14. Then, dude. Okay, little man, listen. I know you think you know, okay, what's up? But you're 14 years old, okay? I've looked into this a lot more, okay? Let me just tell you, you're being brainwashed by your school, okay? Yeah, don't pick on the little kid there, but, okay, you can debate evolution, then come on, Master K, let's go. You're next. Come on, Master K. There we go. What's going on? It's hard to hear you. Could you try talking closer to the, I don't know if you're on your phone there? Okay, so prove evolution. You said that you could prove it.
So there are some whales that exist. They're called baleen whales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have legs. Structures, bone structures that legs that once existed, and they evolved from a species which had legs. They're called baleen whales. So Google them, B-A-L-E-E-N.
Okay. Just give me a second. Okay, so I'm going to share a video right now. It's going to debunk exactly what you think is true. It's called Well Evolution. I know exactly what you're trying to say. It's not true, though.
We can spend 2 days on whale evolution. Every one of them, Ambulocetus and Pakicetus, have all been proven baloney. They can't be intermediate species.
Baloney, okay?
Okay. The authors were certain the feet were enormous, even though nothing was found.
Fuck. What? Doesn't matter what you bring up to me, I'm going to destroy it.
Could not possibly have been ancestral to any of the modern whales. Pakicetus was made from one small piece of jaw, a small piece of skull, a small piece of jaw, and a few teeth.
Okay, so did you get that? The Pakicetus was made from one small piece of a skull, a small piece of jaw, and a few teeth. And then they listed that as the best thing for evolution. So I know when you read in the books, you think it's scientific fact, but I'm trying to tell you they're lying to you in the books. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. You completely dismissed my point. You're talking about baleen whales.
He's gonna get to it. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay. So how does that? Even if so you're saying it has what? It has something in it. Where's the species? That's just microevolution. That's just finding something in one species biology and you're assuming. Where is the scientific proof to show that that was actually in transition? That at some point before it was a whale, what was it?
It was a species called Basilosaurus. Let me spell that for you.
Okay, the dinosaur?
No.
They were hyper.
They were, sorry?
It was prehistoric.
Okay, sorry, I got some feedback. Go ahead.
It was called Basilosaurus. It was prehistoric.
Okay, so was this prehistoric animal that turned into a whale? Okay, well, how do you know that? Is it observed? Where did this transition be observed scientifically? Or is this an assumption?
It's not an assumption.
Okay, well, if it's not an assumption, you can't just say, well, it has this and it came from here. Where was the transition? Where did we see the fossil from one going to another? Because what you're doing, let me clarify what you're actually doing so you even know. You are presupposing that because you believe that it went from one species to the next, you are saying that, well, you're looking at certain things in that, and you see some similarities in another, you go, well, it must have jumped from one to the other. It's now scientific fact. I'm telling you, no, it's not, buddy. Okay? Where's the missing link? Where does it go from prehistoric creature to that verified in nature?
There's some genetic similarities.
So, that doesn't matter. Humans are just more genetically inclined to pigs. That doesn't mean we come from pigs.
Nope, that's not true. That we are more genetically, we are hominids. We're related to monkeys, chimpanzees, apes.
That's what you think. Again, disproven, but okay. You can believe that. I have no problem in your religion, you being religious and believing in your religion.
Not a religion.
Oh, yes. Your school systems, you have faith. You have to have more faith to believe in your religion and your school teachers, which are your priest and your Pope, Richard Dawkins. Trust me, you're religious, bud.
Not an atheist. I'm not an atheist.
Sorry?
I'm not an atheist.
You're not an atheist. So what are you, theist?
Yeah.
Okay, so you do believe that there's an intelligent designer, but you believe in evolution.
Yeah.
Okay, I have more respect for you on, when it comes to your logic, because yes, of course, I definitely believe in theism. So you believe that there's an all-powerful God working through that. So, hello? Hello? Hello. I don't know if you got disconnected. If you did, just let me know. Okay. He is he's gone. All right. That's all right. Let's continue.
Why don't we see this happening all the time? No, everyday experience and scientific evidence confirm our first premise. If something begins to exist, it must have a cause. But what about our second premise? Did the universe begin, or has it always existed? Atheists have typically said that the universe has been here forever. The universe is just there, and that's all. First, let's consider the second law of thermodynamics. It tells us the universe is slowly running out of usable energy.
Okay, this is actual science, okay? It's the second law of thermodynamics. Processes taking place in a closed system always tend towards a state of equilibrium.
It tells us the universe is slowly running out of usable energy. And that's the point. If the universe had been here forever, it would have run out of usable energy by now. The second law points us to a universe that has a definite beginning. This is further confirmed by a series of remarkable scientific discoveries. In 1915, Albert Einstein presented his general theory of relativity. This allowed us, for the first time, to talk meaningfully about the past history of the universe. Next, Alexander Friedmann and George Lemaitre, each working with Einstein's equations, predicted that the universe is expanding. Then in 1929, Edwin Hubble measured the redshift in light from distant galaxies. This empirical evidence confirmed not only that the universe is expanding, but that it sprang into being from a single point in the finite past. It was a monumental discovery, almost beyond comprehension. However...
What's that? Oh, he's back? Where is he? What was his name again? You want to put a comment in and say, hey, it's me? Oh, sorry, I don't remember. Okay, I'm not going to take you back on just because I want to get through my stuff, and I've already been streaming for 2.5 hours, and I don't want to be here all night. But I will have Kent Hovind on, the guy who did the original video, in about a week or so. So when it comes to the whale stuff, I'm going to ask him how to debunk that and have him give you guys all that information. My microphone too low? Was mine too low? But you can come back and talk to me and Kent when Dr. Kent Hovind is here with me, and we'll talk about the whole whale thing with you.
Not everyone is fond of a finite universe, so it wasn't long before alternative models popped into existence. But one by one, these models failed to stand the test of time. More recently, 3 leading cosmologists, Arvind Borde, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin, proved that any universe which has on average been expanding throughout its history cannot be eternal in the past, but must have an absolute beginning. This even applies to the multiverse, if there is such a thing. This means that scientists can no longer hide behind a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning. Any adequate model must have a beginning, just like the standard model. It's quite plausible then that both premises of the argument are true. This means that the conclusion is also true. The universe has a cause. And since the universe can't cause itself, its cause must be beyond the space-time universe. It must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, uncaused, and unimaginably powerful, much like God. The cosmological argument shows that, in fact, it is quite reasonable to believe that God does exist.
Can you be good?
Okay, this one deals with suffering. Okay, because a lot of people will bring up, why is there evil in the world and all that stuff, and they'll use it as an excuse not to believe in God, when it's when it's actually proof of God.
Aware of the suffering and evil in the world. Horrific suffering, unspeakable evil. How then can anyone believe in the existence of an all-loving, all-powerful God? And if God does exist, why would anyone want to worship him? Epicurus framed the logical problem of suffering and evil like this. If God is willing to prevent evil, but not able, then he's not all-powerful. If he is able to prevent evil, but not willing, he is not good. But if he is both willing and able, how can evil exist? And if he is neither able nor willing, then why call him God? In other words, it's logically impossible for God and suffering to both exist. But we know full well that suffering exists. Therefore, God does not. Is this a good argument? Let's look at it more closely. Are these two statements logically inconsistent? No. Here is an example of two logical inconsistent statements. David can't be both married and a bachelor. But there is no explicit contradiction between these two statements. So there must be hidden assumptions behind this argument that would bring out the alleged contradiction.
Hey, Master K, I'm just going to move on with my show, my friend. I get that your Wi-Fi was bad, but I'm actually not looking to debate a theist today so much. I was looking for atheist evolutionists. If you come back on the show that I'm going to be doing with Dr. Kent Hovind, I'm actually going to talk to him on the phone next time I talk to him tomorrow or the day after about all that whale stuff, so I'll get all the information for you. And I know for a fact it's not a proof for evolution, but I'll provide that, and you're free to come back and check it out.
Here they are.
But I'm already like almost 3 hours into my show there. I got to move on and get this over with.
If God is all-powerful, he can create any world he wants. And if God is all-loving, he prefers a world without suffering. So, if an all-powerful, all-loving God exists, it follows that suffering does not exist. Since suffering obviously does exist, the atheist concludes that God must not exist. But are the atheist's two hidden assumptions necessarily true? Consider the first assumption. Can God create any world he wants? What if he wants a world populated by people who have free will? It's logically impossible for God to force someone to freely choose to do good. Forcing free choices is like making a square circle. It's not logically possible. It's not that God lacks the power to perform the task. It's that the supposed task itself is just nonsense. So, it may not be feasible to create a world populated by people who always freely choose to do what is morally good. So the first assumption is not necessarily true. Therefore, the argument fails. And what about the second assumption? Is it necessarily true that God would prefer a world without suffering? How could we possibly know this? We all know of cases where we permit suffering in order to bring about a greater good. If it's even possible that God allows suffering in order to achieve a greater good, then we cannot say this assumption is necessarily true. For the logical problem of suffering to succeed, the atheist would have to show that it's logically impossible that free will exists, and that it's logically impossible that God has good reasons for permitting suffering. This burden of proof is too heavy to bear. It's quite possible that God and suffering both exist. This is why philosophers, even atheist philosophers, have given up on the logical problem of evil.
We can concede that the problem of evil does not, after all, show that the central doctrines of theism are logically inconsistent with one another. Some philosophers have contended that the existence of evil is logically inconsistent with the existence of a theistic God. No one, I think, has succeeded in establishing such an extravagant claim. It's now acknowledged on almost all sides that the logical argument is bankrupt.
But this is hardly the end of the discussion. We still need to explore the probability version. We looked at the logical version of the problem of suffering and evil. This argument attempts to show that since suffering and evil exist, it is logically impossible for God to exist. And we explained why even atheist philosophers admit that this argument fails. But wait, it may still be argued that while it's logically...
You know, Mario Andre, I posted my proof or theory on evolution. You can have all the theories you want. That's what I'm trying to say. My argument is that it's not fact. And that you need... A theory means that you need to have faith to believe in it. Okay? It's not proven fact. And, so...
Possible that God and suffering both exist is far from likely. There's just so much pointless suffering, it seems improbable that God could have good reasons for permitting it. This is the probability version of the problem. Suffering provides empirical evidence that God's existence is not impossible, just highly unlikely. Is this a good argument? Consider 3 points. First, we are not in a position to say with any confidence that God probably lacks reasons for allowing the suffering in the world. The problem is that we're limited in space and time, and in intelligence and insight. God, on the other hand...
This channel, Rachel, is Dr. Craig Videos.
...sees every detail of history from beginning to end, and orders it through people's free decisions and actions. In order to achieve his purposes, God may have to allow a great deal of suffering along the way. Suffering which appears pointless within our limited scope of understanding may be seen to have been justly permitted by God within his wider framework. Sometimes, what we experience makes no sense until we gain a wider perspective and see the big picture designed by the Creator. Here's the second point. Relative to the full scope of the evidence, God's existence may well be probable. You see, probabilities are always relative to background information. For example, if we consider only how much this man weighs, we would say it's highly improbable that he's a world-class athlete. But when we're willing to consider new information, that he's a professional sumo wrestler and a world champion, we quickly revise our view. In the same way, when the atheist claims that God's existence is improbable, we should ask, improbable relative to what background information? If we consider only the suffering in the world, then God's existence may very well appear to be improbable. But if we're willing to look at the full scope of background...
Wow, Carson, I am a failed abortion. God has given me meaning in life. That is insane. Awesome, man. Praise God. That is so amazing that you're alive. Praise God for you, Carson.
Information to take into account the powerful arguments for God's existence, we may come to a very different conclusion. The third point is, Christianity entails doctrines that increase the probability of the coexistence of God and suffering. Consider 4 of these. First, the chief purpose of life is not happiness. People often assume that if God exists, his role is to create a comfortable environment for his human pets. They think the ultimate goal of our lives on earth is happiness, and therefore, God is obligated to keep us happy. However, Christianity presents a radically different view, that the purpose of life is to know God. This alone brings true, lasting fulfillment. Suffering can bring about a deeper, more intimate knowledge of God, either on the part of the one who is suffering or those around him. The whole point of human history is that God, having given us free will, is drawing as many people as he can into his unending kingdom. Suffering is one of the ways God can draw people freely to himself. In fact, countries that have endured the most hardship often show the highest growth rates for Christianity.
God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world.
Second, mankind is in a state of rebellion against God and his purpose. Terrible human evils are testimony to man's depravity, a consequence of his alienation from God. The Christian isn't surprised at moral evil in the world. On the contrary, he expects it. The third doctrine states that God's purpose is not restricted to this life, but spills over beyond the grave into eternal life. This world is just the beginning, the entryway to an unimaginable, never-ending life beyond death's door. Paul, who wrote much of the New Testament, underwent afflictions, hardships, calamities, beatings, imprisonments.
It's a really good video. It's Dr. Craig videos.
Hunger. Yet he wrote, "We do not lose heart, for this slight momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison."
Hey Oswald, what's
because
up?
we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. Paul understood that life on earth, and whatever suffering it holds for each of us, is temporary. Our pain will not endure forever, but our lives with God will. Paul was not belittling the plight of those who suffer horribly in this life. Indeed, he was one of them. But he saw that those suffering will be overwhelmed forever by the ocean of joy that God will give to those who will freely receive it. And the fourth doctrine is this: the knowledge of God is an incomparable good. Knowing God is the ultimate fulfillment of human existence, an infinite good. Thus, the person who knows God, no matter how much he has suffered, can still say, "God is good to me." So, if Christianity is true, it's not at all improbable that suffering and evil should exist. In summary, for all these reasons, The probability version of the problem of evil is no more successful than the logical version. As a purely intellectual problem, then, the problem of evil does not disprove God's existence. But even if those intellectual arguments fail, the emotional problem of suffering and evil remains very powerful.
Doing good, Oswald.
If you have suffered deeply, or if you've watched someone you love go through intense pain, you may be thinking, so what if God exists? Why would I want to respond to him or worship him? I feel cold and empty and want nothing to do with him. You're not alone. God knows your name. He knows who you are and what you're going through. God promises to be with you through your suffering. He can give you the strength to endure. Jesus Christ also suffered. Although he was innocent, he was tortured and sentenced to death. His suffering had a purpose: to provide you and me with a life-giving connection to God. Not only does God exist, but he loves you. He seeks after you. He offers you hope. And in time, he will make all things new.
He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away.
Amazing. All right, guys, I think that's going to be it for the evolution part of the broadcast. So for those of you watching after, thank you so much. I pray that you were edified by this video if you watched it this far, and I'll see you in the next show.